proudest day, and the proudest time in the seat of a rally car, because that day and that hour and those minutes, I got the bit between my teeth. You know, I really stood up and was counted and said, this is not getting away. I remember when we pulled on our helmets and Donald says to me, what are we doing? I said, we're going for gold, Barrett. That's all we said. I can still picture that run. That was just the best run ever.
Welcome along to Krunching Gears, the Rally Podcast, Season 2, Episode 22. Connor, it's that time of the week again.
It's indeed a chance to catch up on all things rallying, and certainly another busy episode.
That's for sure. Before we start, can you please like, share, rate, comment, all those things make a huge difference. And thanks once again to everybody that watched and listened and commented on last week's podcast as well too. Gratefully appreciate it, and there were some lovely comments coming in, so thank you very much. This episode we catch up with Josh McErlean. He tells about his latest adventures. Jimmy McMillan from MSport gives us kind of where MSport feel they're at going into Finland now as well. And then we look forward to Cork 20. It's 30 years ago, James Cullen won the car in a Group N Escort Cosgrove. And to win Cork 20 in a Group N car back then was something else. Huge James fan, now as probably everybody knows at this stage, so absolute pleasure to speak to him. Also, Kevin O'Driscoll helps us look forward to the penultimate round of the Tarmac Championship. And then to finish up the show, something a wee bit different, I caught up with John Doherty and Shane Barry. Two guys riding horses from Donegal to Dingle. Not an easy task by any manner of means, but it's for a fantastic charity event. But more of that later on. Connor, last weekend we had Roma de Capital, the latest round of the ERC. And once again, our guys done us proud, or our guys and girls, I should say, done us proud.
Absolutely, some cracking results there. Really strong performance. What do you call it? Patrick and Stephen O'Brien. I think that's their first proper tarmac event in the Rally 2 outside of Ireland. Mm-hmm. And then what do you call it? Aoife Raftery with Ronan Comerford on board, and Aoife was fighting for female honours. And well, if I'm right, second lady home and first in two-wheel drive.
Excellent, yeah, brilliant. And then John Armstrong. We've said it numerous times, but we'll say it once again. John's one of those fantastic talents, that come off this island, himself and Cameron Fair. John now, I think, is the ERC Rally 3 champion, by just starting the event. But the performance of him last weekend, he demolished the rest of the Rally 3 guys and was mixing with some of the R5 Rally 2 cars. Once again, sublime performance.
Oh, look, incredible performance. And this is a car that's still under development as well. So it's not even a finished product. But if you look at John in the ERC this year, 5 events, 5 class wins, it's a fantastic record. Yeah. And again, Cameron Fair as well. That's his first time to compete outside of the UK this year in the ERC Championship. And provisionally, he's going to be the Rally 3, champion co-driver as well. Just it's dependent on the next round in the Czech Republic.
Excellent. And then, this weekend coming up, we have Rally Finland, closer to home with the Cork 20 Rally. Finland is going to be almost an extension of an Irish Rally. The amount of competitors we have, I think it's 13, 14 guys we have over there, I think, isn't it? So that's going to be fantastic. We have Josh and James out in the Hyundai. We also have Eamon Kelly and Conor Mochen. And then as well as that, then we have Brendan Comiskey and Martin Conley out in the Rally 3 Fiesta. Looking forward to see how they get on, because they put in some great performance there in the last rally in Estonia. I know Martin wasn't sitting with Brendan at that stage. We also have John Coyne, Enda McCormick and Paul Riley. And, those guys are all involved behind the scenes in the MI Rally Academy. So it's great for them to maybe bask in the glory of how good this the MI Rally Academy is, Con.
Oh, look, absolutely. And, I'm sure it'd be a great buzz in and around the service area with so many of the guys there and all their, lending their support and their help and their knowledge and bringing the crack.
Yeah, where the Irish are renowned for the feel good factor, and no doubt they'll bring that to the service area this weekend. And not all the competitors, but a lot of them. Philip Case is running them. What Philip's done over the last few years has been phenomenal. He has taken from humble beginnings in Letterkenny now, and has set up a team now that's the envy of the whole Rally 2 community now.
Absolutely, and when you look at the results, look at the reliability. The crews wouldn't be getting the results without reliable, well serviced, well set up cars, and really the work that Philip's doing and working so closely with Hyundai as well. Running the customer team, it's just incredible what's been done there.
That's for sure. They're obviously getting the great support from the Hyundai team, and that just that obviously is testament to the team itself. But I think without further ado, we'll catch up with Josh McErlean and get his thoughts, and not only in Finland, but the previous round that he done was Estonia.
So yeah, Estonia probably turned out more positive than it set out to be. Saturday and Sunday we were quite closer to the pace of the top boys, and yeah, after Fridays we had some trouble and a good reset over Friday night and Saturday morning, and the pace came back. So no, we were positive. It was a positive turnaround from that point of view, and yeah, to challenge these boys in Estonia and try to go up them, and yeah, let's say their backyard, because most of them are Scandinavian, and from that area of the world is a challenge in itself. And yeah, to be thereabouts by Sunday evening was quite nice. Obviously, we're kind of out of touch from the top pack after Friday's troubles, but yeah, we had our own battles within that there, and it was a good weekend.
You mentioned Friday's troubles and, challenging start for you, puncture on stage 2, then you had intercom issues on stage 4. How much of a knock to the confidence was that?
It definitely is. There's no doubt about that. Starting one of these rallies off on a bad foot is not the nicest way to start them, because everyone's on the pace from the word go, and if you get a setback at all, you start to lose reach from the top boys. And yeah, as the weekend goes on, it starts to turn into where you're going to be by the end of the rally, and where your position is, because okay, you might be a minute each way going into the last day, and okay, you want to still show some pace, but you don't want to do something stupid because there's not so much to gain from that. But I think on Saturday we showed that whenever we had some battles to fight for, the pace was good. And yeah, I think it was under half a second a kilometre off the top WRC 2 times, which yeah is the top guys in the world. So it's encouraging from that point of view. But you always want to start these events in a strong foot, because that's where the momentum comes from.
And when you look at your times overall, 21 stages, and there wasn't one single stage where you were outside of the top 10, even with the issues that you had on the Friday morning. Phenomenal pace there, and a very consistent pace.
I would say so. I would say consistency is probably the biggest thing to coming out of the weekend. It's okay. I think in the past we could show that we set these top 10 times within WRC2, but the consistency really wasn't there from the start of the weekend to the end of the weekend. There was drop off in pace, but I think from Saturday to Sunday, the split times alone were consistent within that pace. So it's always a positive to take from that there. And going into Finland again is with the high speed continues, and that's where you want to be, because that's where everyone else is going to be at that top end. And yeah, from the word go, you want to be thereabouts.
And you mentioned high speed. How would you describe the Estonian stages? What are they like? Is there a comparison, or is there a combination of other events?
I think that our time in the ERC from Poland and Latvia was a good contribution to the improvement in pace. It's probably a mixture between them two events. Okay, Sweden's is slightly different from the characters of the stages, but yeah, the stages in Poland and Latvia was good preparation getting into here. We knew that was going to be the case, and yeah, the stages themselves are quite crazy in places with these jumps. I'm sure most people have seen the drivers maybe complaining sometimes about the jumps, but yeah, they're spectacular, and even the crowds and spectators along the way is sensational. And it's probably a shame that it isn't in WRC next year, because the format, how the event is run, and yeah, the thrill you get from them stages. I think most of the stages you spend more time in the air than you actually do on the ground. But yeah, it's big commitment. There's no doubt about it, and it's top level stuff. But to be there at that end is a good feeling.
You mentioned the jumps, and I suppose they were particularly evident on the Saturday stages, and there were some artificial ones put into that. Like, are they a help or a hindrance? Would you prefer they weren't there, or does it add to the buzz?
I would say maybe our bodies wish they weren't there, but the mind definitely enjoys this. It's a serious thrill and adrenaline from it. Okay, going into Finland again, there is big jumps, but I would say Estonia jumps are quite a lot harsher, let's say, in terms of the man-made ones, because they're there to create a spectacle, and they definitely do that. So no, it was definitely a sensation to go over them and at that speed, and yeah, to be trying to race these guys and get to the end of the stage and they're still taking some time out of you is still a bit more to go, but yeah, there's places where we can see where it's getting lost, and okay, we're on the pace in some places, so it's good to patch this together and see where we can improve from.
And Saturday was quite a long day, and it was 9 stages, but all sort of relatively short stages. I think the longest was 16.5K. For yourselves, trying to make up the time from Friday, was that a bit painful? Would you prefer nice long stages on the Saturday? Would it might have helped you to make up the time a bit better, or did it not really impact?
I think it's quite hard to make time up with any length of stage it is, especially on these roads with the fast nature. The time is quite hard to find. From a pure driving point of view and performance, it's quite difficult because everyone is on the limit. There's no doubt about that there. I think with WRC2 especially, there's that many people fighting at the top end now that okay, there might be one person slacking off on one stage, but there's obviously someone coming behind that's going to be on the pace and on the money. So no, here it was good to get back onto that pace in Estonia, obviously after Sweden as well with the roll. So Saturday and Sunday were definitely a lot more straightforward than the Friday, but yeah, we want to carry that momentum into Finland there.
And as an outsider watching in, the Sundays, typically it's tire saving for 3 stages, and everybody gives it their all in for the fourth. That didn't appear to be the case in Estonia. There didn't seem to be as much talk or much evidence of tire saving. And is that the nature of the roads, or was it just it wasn't noticed, maybe, or as noticeable?
I would say tire wear maybe wasn't as high as maybe some rallies it could be. The nature of the roads are quite fast. Okay, you still want traction, but the tire doesn't get as much hurt as some rallies. And at the top end, I would say there was still a battle to be held for the podium positions with the Evans and Latvia and Neville. So I would say from that point of view, it wasn't really talked about so much because them guys were still fighting and they needed to. So, but yeah, it shows you that Robin Perra can still win stages and then go on to win the first stage with no matter what tire he's on. So okay, it's a certain element of it, but it's not the be all and end all at the end of the day.
Yeah, and what do you call it? He finished the event 16th overall and 6th in the WRC Challenger class. Is happy with that? Is that what you were aiming for? Are you thereabouts?
Yeah, I would say after Friday and going into the event, it wasn't so nice. But yeah, going into Sunday, that was really a realistic goal from a results point of view. Okay, at the start of the weekend, I think it would have been nice to challenge from the start, but sometimes, okay, WRC mindset might be a little bit different from ERC, where you can go flat out from the word go and last the whole stages with that pace. I think we have to get more towards that in WRC because everyone else is at that level now. So going into Finland, we want to start on that foot and go from there. So yeah, it was a good positive weekend from that point of view. More consistency was in the driving as well. So no, I think it was all around a good weekend. Okay, maybe it wasn't the best in terms of results that we set out to go into it, but it's all building going forward.
And you mentioned Finland there, and I suppose in the build up to Finland, you've had quite a bit of good seat time recently and some really good results with it as well. So how are you feeling getting into Finland? What's the preparation involved?
I think the route's maybe 50% the same as last year. So we can do some homework before it, let's say, with videos and WRC Plus. So yeah, it's always special going into Finland. It's always the one that you watch growing up to go to these rallies. And yeah, the roads here is quite sensational. Even from our experience last year, it didn't go so well last year, but we have to learn from that going into this year, and that's why we're going back to do better. But yeah, the preparation's going good. We've always done a lot of mileage up to this on fast rallies, so I think it's good to go in here and let's step it up a bit more to see where we come.
And then I suppose prior to the event, will you have an opportunity to test or in Finland?
So yeah, we're testing on the Sunday before the event. We leave on Saturday, so it was a quick stop over at home, get some preparation, get some washing done, and go again. But yeah, there's no doubt it's very good at the moment, and obviously everyone involved in the whole project is looking to go steps ahead. So yeah, it's going to be nice to have obviously John Coyne in the team as well this weekend with the second car from Philip Case and the McCormick as well. So yeah, it's always a good laugh to have these boys around, and yeah, I'm sure they'll have a battle themselves.
That's it. Listen, it's great to have the support and the comradeship as well. You know, with having as many MI over and crew, Irish crews as well. So, you know, fantastic. And I'm sure it creates a bit of a buzz around the service area and then what do you call it? Getting the cars sorted and that. With regard to benchmarking yourself, like what do you call it? Fabrizio Zaldivar is the other Hyundai customer racing. Like, you know, are you kind of watching what he's doing, or are you doing your own thing? Is it more looking at the other WRC2 contenders or challengers?
From a benchmark point of view, I think it's always good to benchmark off people with similar machinery and similar packages. And yeah, Zaldivar and Lindholm as well, and as well as George and MI, they've all the same car, same package. So it's nice to benchmark off them. I think Lindholm's a WRC2 champion from last year, obviously moved into Hyundai. So by the end of the rally, I think it was an average of 0.3 seconds per kilometre off him. So it's not so far away from that point of view. And obviously battling with Zaldivar as well is good. He's obviously the second works Hyundai, and that's where we ultimately want to be. So yeah, you have to look at that there and try benchmark off that, because you have to beat these guys to drag it ahead of them. So no, I think Estonia from that point of view and a car point of view, it's good to be in the mix with these people and better than.
I know in the past you've worked with Teemu Sinonen when he was in the WRC2 car, and will there be an opportunity through Hyundai to maybe work with Emil and Rita, or is that kind of hasn't been discussed yet? Or
no, I think there's good plans going forward with Hyundai and the development of the car as well. So no, it's always good to have a close relationship with these people because everyone wants the same goal. And I think with Emil coming from a Skoda background, he's been involved in the development of the new RS Skoda as well. So it's always good to have someone with that caliber of knowledge and experience of developing a car. So no, everyone's in the same boat here to try and make improvements. And yeah, next month there's some testing going on. So yeah, it's good to be involved in that.
Yeah, and we mentioned Teemu and a fantastic drive by Teemu, taking 5th place overall, like first time competitively in the Rally 1 car. Did you get a chance to speak to him at all at the event?
Yeah, I actually keep good contact with him. He's a good guy. He's helped me a lot over this past year, and yeah, to get into that car and that rally at high speeds and show that commitment is tremendous. And I think yeah, going forward ahead, obviously he's going into Finland now, his home territory, and he's on the crest of a wave with from that point of view. So yeah, there's no doubt I think he's got the pace and the potential to carry on with that program. And yeah, it's good to show what Craig left off to do.
Yeah, huge thanks to Josh there for taking the time to chat. He literally was only home for, you know, a day or two, home to change of clothes, jump back on a plane again to head to Finland. And again, like a cracking result for himself and James, 16th overall in Estonia. And hopefully, you know, with the 2 events back to back, that he'll continue to carry that speed in Finland. And then also just mention from Estonia and Finland again connected. Don't forget Aaron Johnson sitting with Takamoto. And Takamoto just really was out of sorts in Estonia, just didn't seem happy at all with his own performance. So, hopefully the team can help Taka get back on track again, and a good, strong Finland. I suppose Finland's his second home. So we'd be hopeful there that, that kind of helps soothe the nerves or the whatever is just affecting them at the moment. Yeah. And then also just with regard coming out of Estonia and going into Finland again, I caught up with Jamie McMillan from MSport. So Jamie is the chief engineer for Oitanic's car. So it was a chance to have a chat about that 5-minute penalty and just, what the mood is like in the team.
Being we can't downplay it. It's been a tough few months for MSport. How is morale within the team?
Yeah, it's okay. We're used to sort of just picking ourselves up and keep battling on. At the end of the day, that it's our job, so we have to keep battling through and trying to overcome the sort of the adversities and everything that's chucked at us. So there's no question the work ethic's there, and the guys are really working hard from all different levels, right up from the very top to the guys in the workshop. So the motivation's still there. Ultimately, the championship fight seems a little bit of a long shot now, but ultimately we still want to go to each event and put on the best performance we can and fight for the very minimum podiums and rally victories for the last few events of the season, and really try and finish off on an upward trend.
And I suppose there's a couple of things there. One, because you're only running 2 cars compared to the other teams running 3, if there is an issue, it's probably more highlighted the fact that there's something there. And again, all of the teams are having their own issues with certain things. You see certain weaknesses in certain rallies with particular cars. And then I suppose that other piece where, again, you have one hand tied behind your back compared to budgets of the other, Toyota and Hyundai as well. So, I mean, there's a lot there. Last time we spoke, the issue was probably around suspension, because Oit had compared the Puma to a wooden horse. Now, I know there's been quite a bit of work there, and you've actually brought upgrades. I think you brought an upgrade there, to Sardinia from the suspension side of things. How is that work? Has that kind of solved the problem, or has it brought you in the right direction?
Yeah, I mean, it's a constant development path, to be fair. So, as I mentioned before, Ryder work very closely with us. They come to all of the tests, and they're constantly developing the dampers from their side. So they're coming with new ideas, and that works in combination with us. So the engineers at MSport and the guys at Ryder work very closely together, and Oit's included in a lot of those conversations too, to really get a clear idea of what he's looking for and what we also see from the data and what we think is required for different events. So I think, without going through event by event, I would say, on every rally this year, we've probably had some evolution of damper spec. It hasn't just been a matter of pulling a damper from last year or from the previous event. We are constantly working and fine-tuning things to try and get it into a better window. So, yeah, we brought some upgrades for Kenya for the rougher sort of events. And then Estonia and Finland, you're met with a slightly different challenge. So you need a very different damper philosophy for those sorts of events too. So it's not quite so much about the big damper inputs from rocks and from running higher ride heights. It's more to do with giving the car a little bit more support, and you need some jump protection there as well. So you'll still be going to full stroke, but in a slightly different manner, and you're running much lower ride heights as well. So it's very much a different challenge, and we've been developing quite a bit in both the Estonia test and the South Estonia rally, which I did before the main WRC event in Estonia. And then the guys were in Finland again last week. So I went straight from Estonia rally to the Finland test and did some more work there. So yeah, it's a constant sort of evolution and development path. And then when we move on to Greece and Chile, again, it'll be a slightly different philosophy needed. Greece will be probably, more along the lines of Sardinia and Kenya. Chile might be a little bit more similar to Estonia and Finland. So yeah, it's a bit of a balancing act between what you want in terms of grip and traction, and then also keeping some support and rigidity and feedback to the driver. So yeah, all those sorts of things come into play, and that's where it can have such a big effect on how the car handles, and it has to go hand in hand with the suspension geometry and the ride heights and the rake that you're running on the car as well.
And I'd alluded to Estonia there. We're struggling in the ruts in some places on the stages. Like, again, how can you cure that, or is there just a level where you're just going to struggle when they're deep ruts and that's it?
Yeah, I think Estonia on Saturday in particular was a little bit more difficult because you did the same stages before coming back to service. So you did first and second pass. So you maybe couldn't make the same style of setup changes that you would in a sort of conventional rally format where you'll do 3 loops of first pass stages, come back to service, make some changes, and then go out again. So yeah, the guys can still make ride height and click adjustments on between the loops, but out of everybody, especially on Saturday, I probably had the biggest road evolution because he was running first in the road and in the morning and then going into second pass condition. So yeah, I mean, drivers also like different setups for first and second pass, just in terms of the handling. Some drivers are quite happy to have some impacts in the guard and feel some inputs into the chassis, whereas some other drivers would rather run a little bit higher and allow the suspension to do a little bit more of the absorption. So yeah, there's a combination of different factors there, and yeah, I think the ruts in Estonia can be one of the bigger challenges just because of how big a difference it is between first pass, where it's real smooth, fast roads, and then going into the second pass where it can be quite tricky and quite tough in the car as well.
And one of the other issues earlier in the year was there was a high number of D-beads on the wheels, particularly in the earlier rougher events in the year, or the rough events earlier in the year. Am I right in thinking you changed the design of the rims to deal with that?
Yeah. So there's a rim design change which we introduced for Estonia. So yeah, again, it's been a bit of one of those things. It's a work in progress as well. Constant sort of evolution of the design, and we find some things with a certain design, and then we fine tune them to suit other requirements, and then we encounter some other issues. So yeah, I mean, we've had multiple evolutions of the rims over the years, and to be honest, midway through last year, we were really sort of on top of the issue. I think the last sort of 6 months we didn't have so many de-beating issues last year. There was just one in New Zealand, but that was quite a unique de-beat. It wasn't the sort of conventional de-beat that you see. So yeah, Craig did suffer from that, but yeah, we clearly seen it was an issue again earlier in the year, and the guys at MSport and worked quite closely with OZ and managed to bring an updated design a lot sooner than you would normally expect. The lead times are normally pretty long for these sorts of things, and it's quite big orders, so it's not a cheap thing to go and do either, and suddenly change a massive a lot of wheels that you have on order. So yeah, it was good to be able to get those that thing sort of design change turned around quite quickly and into circulation, and hopefully touch wood, we can keep on top of that from now on.
And one of the things we saw an issue with was water splashes in Safari for Toyota, and then Sardinia for yourselves. I know you do your engineers recce prior to the event, and water splashes. Obviously, they're spectacular for photographers, for WRC Live, etc. It looks great, but do you dread when you're coming up to one in the road, going, "This is just going to create problems"? Like, how do the teams, what do the teams feel about it, or what do the engineers feel about it?
Yeah, the entertainment's all part of it, and the photos and stuff. Yeah, as you say, they are spectacular, but I think the big thing is just the pressure of the water getting into everything. It surprises you just how far it goes and how much damage it can create. So, listen, it's part of rallying, and I'm not going to say that we shouldn't be doing the water splashes. I think it's completely it's part of the allure for photographers and all the rest of it. So it's part of the challenges. It's one of the things that we need to work towards being able to survive. That's just one of the things we need to do. I think there's a fine line between a normal water splash and a proper river crossing. I don't think like some of the ones were maybe a little bit extreme, and certainly in Sardinia, where you're going through a proper river crossing. It's maybe 20 or 30 meters long. In that case, it's a little bit questionable that the cars are built for those sorts of things. But yeah, ultimately we have things in place to allow the cars to go through there without issue, and it's a fine balance between we've got what we call a splash valve, so that will ultimately starve the engine of some air depending on where you're taking your air from. So yeah, you can quite quickly stall or have issues with not getting enough air into the engine when you're using the splash valve, or if you don't use the splash valve, then you can get water into the engine, and that causes its own problems. So yeah, we had a little bit of a combination of issues, and I think obviously you've seen Toyota had struggle a little bit as well, and I think Hyundai earlier on in the rally maybe had one or two issues too. So yeah, I think all the teams went away and did a little bit more thinking and a little bit more development and designing to sort of overcome those. And I think I think all teams had slightly different solutions in place by Kenya, which was quite a quick turnaround for all of us. So yeah, we did a little bit more testing ourselves, and were able to come up with a fix that we think was better than what we had in Sardinia. But yeah, ultimately it was really disappointing that something like that is as maybe trivial as it can seem can put you out of a rally and cost us a big chunk of points.
It is. No, it's very unfortunate. It's something out of your control, but it is within the control of the organisers. So it is unfortunate. And again, even if snorkels had been reintroduced and, for safari, well, that still wouldn't have solved, Sardinia. So, it's a bit of a tough one to see, a car ruled out of contention because of water in the engine. And speaking of engines, unfortunately in Estonia, we saw the 5-minute penalty for the change of engine. I suppose from your own side, I'm sure it was extremely frustrating, because it's not like you just pop an engine in there and that's it. There's a whole process that goes into place before that happens.
Yeah, exactly. And as we've talked about before, we're doing the best we can at every opportunity to give out the best possible tools to go and win rallies. And Estonia was obviously a good option to bring a fresh engine to go and compete, especially on his home event. And we were targeting that as a clear rally where we should be right up there and pushing for the victory. So yeah, it made it all the more disappointing finding out the issues after scrutineering. And as you mentioned, we don't just build an engine and put it straight in the car. It has its own proper dyno test procedure, and it gets ran at the test facility at MSport, and we do a proper shakedown on it, and everything gets checked. And yeah, ultimately, looking back at the data and the information, I don't think we would necessarily have done anything differently either. It wasn't clear anything from our initial shakedown and test at MSport that there were any issues. So yeah, it was a case of, it seems, bad time and bad luck. I don't know, but unfortunately, that's where we ended up with it, and yeah, disappointing.
No, very, very disappointing, very unfortunate. Particularly, you'd put an awful lot of effort in with the pre-Estonia testing, competing in the local rally beforehand, which Oich won, and obviously as a home event and stuff as well. And Toyota brought an upgrade to Estonia, obviously for them to compete directly with Hyundai. Where are you? Where's MSport at with regard to engine upgrades and the Puma?
So yeah, we brought a software upgrade as well to Estonia. So and it's always constant development and evolution with small finer things that you can tweak and tune to suit certain events and conditions. So those guys are obviously pushing really hard from an engine side, and they've got a lot of resource behind them to go and do that. And I think they're bringing little bits here and there, and ultimately, from the regulation standpoint, there shouldn't be a big difference between the engines. But it's all about maximizing every finer detail and marginal gains. It's all part of it. But yeah, as I said, we brought some software tweaks to Estonia, which was something that I had been pushing for from quite early on in the year. And that was our sort of target was introduction for Estonia, and we did the testing on that, and felt there were some good improvements there. So yeah, we're pushing hard on that side as well.
And during the event, there was an issue around Pierre-Louis getting a penalty for the wrong or misuse of the hybrid mapping. How does that hybrid mapping work? What I suppose what is available to the crews, and who dictates it, or who has an input into it?
So yeah, that's a reasonably complex question. There's quite a few different parameters going on there. So in terms of an actual boost allocation, so the amount of energy you have per boost event, that's regulated by the FIA. So it's dependent on the surface. So it's different sort of values in there between gravel, tarmac, and snow. And then it's dependent on the stage length. So for the shorter stages, you get a little bit more energy because it's a shorter time period to use your total energy. So you shouldn't run out of or run too low in state of charge in the shorter stages, and in the longer stages you use a little bit less because you're going to be using it a little bit more before you can charge the hybrid on the road section again. So yeah, every stage you have a different energy allocation, generally speaking, unless you go to two stages and they're very similar in length, then maybe they'll have the same energy allocation. But we have it set up in the dash that the co-driver will go through a process just to change stage number after every stage, and it also automates some of his stage distances and TC times that come up on his dash. So it's part of just the normal procedures for the co-drivers. And yeah, unfortunately, on this occasion, I think it was just an error, or pressing a button one too many times, or something along these lines. So yeah, we've put some stuff in place. Prior to that, we thought we were on top of sort of alarms and warnings to make sure the crew were able to see if they were had made a mistake or whatever. But yeah, we've made some more changes for Finland, so hopefully that doesn't happen again. It's not something that should ever cause an issue or ever result in a time penalty. And ultimately, I don't think Pierre-Louis really gained a massive amount, and it was just an honest mistake. So yeah, I think the 5-second penalty was probably in the grand scheme of it, it's fair. That's how it has to be. It's regulated by the FIA, so if you're running a little bit outside of those limits, then you get penalised. So yeah, that's about it.
And it's another complexity to driving the Rally 1 cars, and we've seen some of the regular WRC drivers still not 100% there yet with the Rally 1 cars. Like, how much more difficult are they to drive? I think what do you call it? Teemu Sunen in there alluded to a little bit, about having to change his braking style with regard to the regen, etc. So, how tough is it just to get into one of those cars and go?
It's a tricky question. I think that, to jump in the car and drive, if you've driven an R5, then you're already used to the manual gear shift, and you're used to how to internal combustion engine and how to fire it up, and you're used to all the dashes and things like this. So to drive on a normal level, I think is okay, but to really make the step up and understand what the hybrid's doing, and when you need to regen, and when you've got boost available, and where to use it, I think that's a much bigger sort of mental challenge, and that's probably the bit where Teemu was alluding to. No doubt he could jump in the car and drive it very fast, but you need to be driving, right at the very top level to be competitive with the other guys. And I think that's the additional few percent where you need to be, fully understand the hybrid strategy, how it works, and different teams have it set up in different ways in terms of what cues the drivers get to tell them whether they're regenning or whether they've got boost available with different lights and different dash sequences. So yeah, we can dumb it down and make it very, very easy, and just have it as sort of black and white for a driver coming in and jumping in the car for the first time. But if you want to really make the most out of it, then yeah, it gets a little bit more complex.
Like, is there training sessions for the drivers to really get the most out of it, or how do you assist them?
Well, yeah, I think you need to first of all try and speak with them to make sure they've got a proper understanding of the system and how it works. So there's throttle targets in there and brake pressure targets that allow you to to regen. So you know, they need to be aware of what that feels like in reality. You know, okay, you can say 30% throttle and you can say 5 bar brake pressure, but quite often a driver may not know what that actually feels like, or you know, what does it actually feel like on the pedals, or you know, how hard is 5 bar. You know, it's not actually all that much when you put it into reality. So yeah, there's a driver training line that you need to sort of sit them down and just make sure they're on board and understand it. And yeah, that's something we've done with all the guys, and certainly Adrian and Craig had a good advantage sort of a couple of years ago, where we knew it was coming for a year, so we were able to get them fully embedded into our strategy and how we were going to optimize the hybrid. And you know, that's something that Oid's been on top of as well. You know, Hyundai use theirs. Well, I think all manufacturers use their hybrid in slightly different ways and slightly different manners in terms of how they use the boost, and we can homologate different calibrations. So they'll all have slightly different ways of using it. So yeah, it's all part of the game now, as it is in Rally 1. And yeah, I think it's probably something that could be opened up a little bit more to spectators to probably understand it a little bit better. And you know, with the TV graphics and stuff, it goes a small way to show them what's going on. But yeah, it is part of the performance, and you can see. I think Thierry didn't have the hybrid on the power stage, and it is a sizable advantage when you have it now compared to whenever you're sort of struggling with it, and maybe not either on top of the system of how it works and getting the most out of it, but then also whenever you have hybrid issues and you don't have anything, then for sure you're gonna struggle a bit.
Yeah, I can only imagine as a team who hires out, you know, the Rally 1 cars, for you to get somebody up to speed, I'm sure it can be quite challenging, so that they are getting the best of their experience as well. Yeah,
that's exactly it. And I think one aspect of it is driving in the stage, and I think it can quite quickly be information overload, and a lot of the time you just need to get them to jump in the car and understand the Puma itself before you even worry about a hybrid. Just say, you know, it'll sort itself out in the background. You focus on driving, and it takes, you know, a matter of time and a matter of hours in the car and test days and rallies before maybe they can make the most out of it. But probably the more well, I say important, but yeah, ultimately the more important aspect for one of the new crews jumping in the car is understanding the systems in terms of going in and out of EV mode and how to use the hybrid in the road section, because yeah, that can cost you a lot of time and penalties if you don't get it into EV mode, or you're getting hybrid errors and you don't have the hybrid turned on, and all these sorts of systems and fail safes that are in place. Yeah, they need to be right on top of that as well.
And what do you call it? In testing, we've seen a few images of a modified rear wing. Is that kind of the next joker to be played, homologation joker, or is that just something that's being looked at maybe for next year, and it's maybe not a priority for yourselves?
Yeah, as you said, it's been analysed and assessed, and doing some durability mileage on it as well. So with all these sort of options for homologation jokers, you don't want to just throw it on and do, you know, one test day with it and then put it straight into a rally, because for sure you'll come unstuck by sort of rushing things through, and you'll end up having more issues. So yeah, we're still evaluating what options we have for the back end of the year. We know what the rear wing gives us now. We've got some good data from it from the test days, and now we're just evaluating whether we think that's the best use of a joker, or whether we use a joker somewhere else to make it more comfortable in the car. So yeah, there's some things, some packages to be evaluated as well in terms of you know, multiple jokers. So if we use the rear wing, then maybe we wouldn't have enough jokers left to do something else. So yeah, it's all part of the studies going on. So it's not quite pulled the trigger on it yet. But yeah, we have the data there now, and we know what it gives us, and then it's just a matter of deciding if and when we want to introduce it.
And what do you call it? Is the list, Oit's list, getting any shorter yet, or is it still you know, plenty on it?
I think it's getting longer. No. Listen, every event we're bringing stuff. You know, I have to say the guys are pushing really hard. You know, the whole team really is doing as much as we possibly can to get them as comfortable as possible. And we're pushing as much as we can. And yeah, as I say, every event there's been something coming, something new, whether it's just even the smaller things like trying to make them more comfortable and inside the car in terms of cockpit changes and cockpit setup, or is it the bigger things like dampers and suspension geometries. And we're constantly trying and pushing to get it more suited to him. Ultimately it's quite clear he's not happy sort of to push on the limit on stage after stage. So yeah, I think we've done big changes to various areas in the car, within the regulations in terms of what we can do with homologation. So it's all part of it. And now we're on to evaluating options that would require jokers and stuff to sort of put him into a position where we feel he can push and sort of widen that window of performance that at the minute is maybe a little bit narrow.
And speaking of performance now, Finland's up mixed. Oit had 6 stage wins in Estonia despite everything else that was going on in the background. You've had 2 days of testing. You've also had last Saturday you took part in a local rally there, the Haya Centre. Where do you feel you're at now going into Finland? Are you in a good place, especially with coming off such a short period of time from Estonia?
Yeah, I think so. As you say, there was stage winning performance in Estonia, and I sort of laid a marker down there on the Friday, and I think it was a real shame that we couldn't roll with that and see where it would have ended us at the end of the rally if it wasn't for the penalty. I think moving forward, that's something maybe the FIA should look at, is maybe apply the 5-minute penalty at the end of the rally rather than after the first day, because having Oit then opening the road on Saturday, it was a real shame we never really got a proper gauge on how competitive he would have been against Callie and Thierry. I know the Hyundais are pushing on a bit now and are getting a little bit more comfortable in the high speed events, and Callie's obviously been how he is for over a year now, but I would like to think that he wouldn't have had it quite so easy had Oit been beside him on the road. And Oit would have been able to, I'm sure, push a little bit more. I know at the end of the day, opening the road, you're always going to have a disadvantage, and he still wasn't comfortable with the car, but I would like to think that he would have been still on it and thereabouts with Callie if the road position had been a bit more favourable. So moving forward to Finland without any penalties, hopefully we bank some good times on Friday, and we can see where the weekend takes us. And I think back end of the year now, we just need to, as I say, target podiums and rally victories and see where we end up at the end of the year.
And have you had a chance to do your recce yet?
No, so I'm skipping this one. So I've done quite a few this year. So we've got a couple of colleagues, Bernardo and Austin, are out there doing their first day recce today, I think, and then they'll finish the rest of the stages tomorrow.
And any feedback what it's looking like, or just expecting same as previous years?
Well, I mean the stages are fairly similar. There's a few new ones in there as well, but I think there's been quite a lot of rain in the area in the last couple of weeks, and I think there's still a chance of rain going through into the weekend. So that could have a factor in things. Obviously, Pierre-Louis had quite a very wet rally there at the weekend, so he should be in a good position, I guess, in terms of understanding the Finnish roads in really wet, tricky conditions. And it's quite a difficult balance with those sorts of things in terms of car setup, because you're still high speed, fast roads with jumps and all the rest of it. So if there's a lot of rain, you also want it to have as much grip and traction as possible. So it's a real balancing act there in terms of how you set the car up for those sorts of stages. So I think weather could end up playing a part by the looks of it, certainly with the slightly longer term forecast with 4 or 5 days to go yet. So a lot could change, but I think it's going to be interesting to see how it all pans out. But hopefully we're in a good position and we can make the most of whatever weather we get.
That's it. Fingers crossed for a bit of luck, and what do you call it? You're more than overdue it.
Yeah, exactly. Fingers crossed. What can we say? Gotta just keep on working away. And as I say, the whole team's working as hard as possible to keep bringing upgrades and getting away as comfortable as you can be in the car, and hopefully it pays dividends and we can at least have a good end of the season and get some good points on the board.
Fascinating conversation here with Jamie, and out last year had a horrible Estonia and then went into Finland and had a cracking rally, so, and then MSport are due a wee bit of luck, so fingers crossed it all comes together for them now at the weekend. Also this weekend coming up now, we have the Cork 20 rally closer to home, penultimate round of the Tarmac Championship. It's going to be a fascinating battle once again, with all the main protagonists there. Callum Devine, 3 1s in the trot. Does he drive with the championship in mind? Does he go for it? We'll have to wait and see. But 30 years ago, Cork 20, there was a very good quality lineup, and the man who started number 1 on the car finished number 1 at the end of the rally. It was James Cullen and Ellen Morgan beside him on the notes. James was driving a Group N Escort Cosworth back then, and it shouldn't have been the car to won, but it did. But anyway, less of me talking and more of James. So let's hear the story from James. James Cullen, it's been a while since we caught up, but it's 30 years since you won the Cork 20 rally, and with Cork 20 coming up this weekend, we thought it'd be nice to catch up and have a chat. 93, a year in the Group N Escort Cosworth. A year it was good to you, James.
It was very good, and like you say, 30 years ago, I remember. I might not just remember everything, but as I say, you always remember the good bits, and that was a very good year. Probably one of the better years we had since the first real season I actually did. So it was good, and it came about in a funny way through lots of trials and tribulations. But the beginning of the year, we're trying to buy Alistair McRae Sierra. So that was the plan, was to do some rallies and that. And then the whole thing came through Shell UK, through Steve Black and SBG. Were building the Shell scholarship cars. And they were doing a car for Gundad last year in the Vectra colours or something like that. So long story short, we got under that umbrella one somewhere or other, so the whole thing kicked off. We missed Galway, but we debuted the car in the circuit, so that was the debut of the Escort Cosworth as a rally car, as a car on Irish rallying. Group M, it'd be nice to have Group A, but it was Group M. It was a brand new car, lovely car, state-of-the-art, proper Group N car. And the circuit, big long rally, so it was great to get settled in, and we ended up third in the circuit, which was nice, which was great. So everybody was all happy, and on we went, and the thing just kept picking up and going on, and everybody stayed on board. And we went to Killarney, finished second in Killarney. 2 gearboxes. And it's the difference between a proper team, having the funding, having the people to run it. It was as good a team as anybody had there.
Yes.
Chris Dale was the coordinator of SPG's mechanics, including our guys and Joe and all that. But I remember, we broke a gearbox coming off Stum Healy. I think it must have changed it. Definitely, I remember there was at least 2 gearboxes to get us through Killarney, because Killarney was dry and it didn't suit the standard transmission of that car. But it was a good result, and barely won it. We were second. I can't remember who was third now, but it was a great rally, and there was a couple of, in those days there were a few night stages on it and all that, so it was great to do that. And then we just kept going on to Donegal, which was the big one for us, and and you were coming in a car you couldn't win, and it was a wee bit, not disappointing, but you'd love to have got some way to find a Group A car to go, but sort of didn't anyway. But and we finished third, so we didn't do too bad, So
I could probably at that stage the Group N 1 and 3rd overall was probably every bit as good as the 1, because there was no way you were going to catch Bertie or Austin and them guys in the Group N car, and you were ahead of a lot of really good other cars as well.
No, but in Killarney, there came a few far guys over, and it was dry tarmac, so there, it was good, and we were in the top 3 all the time, and there was a lot of right good guys behind us, so everybody was happy, and then particularly Shell, and everything kept on going, Then we're leading the Tarmac Championship in Group N. What did we do? Oh, we went to the Ulster. Yeah. and what happened? We didn't finish the Ulster.
I think it was transmission problems, wasn't it?
One of
real weight length in the car was transmission. The gearbox got off the stage and
service in Donegal or somewhere like that, out of service. At the time control, first gear coming away from the time control, bang. Second gearbox. So we changed it along the side of the road. And you chase cars and all those days, like a full panic, and the boys pulled a flyer, like, to get. So we landed up to the next stage, a whole panic, and like it was 15 minutes maximum lateness. And we reckoned we were there within the 15 minutes. Remember Tony Pondon that year in the metro run back the field.
Yes.
So he was keeping everybody back and getting everybody out of the road, and was up to the timekeeper. And there's a certain timekeeper who shall remain nameless, who became a very senior official, and that person said no, we were X number of seconds over 15 minutes, and Ellen reckoned we weren't, and blah blah blah. They were there, so pack up and go home. But we're still in the championship, and it took us out of the overall championship a wee bit, And then we got the offer then to go to the Manx, which wasn't in our programme at all because it was outside of the Buckler and all, all our guests. So they said, go to the Manx because Gundaf going and the Shell Scholarship cards going, and we can sort of nurse you along at the back of that. Just go finish the rally, get the Group M thing, and then we'll go and do Cork. And so we headed off to the Manx, behaved ourselves as best we could. Gundaf was on a flyer, like he was on a mission, basically to prove how good he was. He was looking for drive the following year, obviously, and all that. So we tagged along behind that second Group M, leading the Irish side of it, so maximum points, and then Gundaf got a puncher, I think, or something like that. And then we were at about 6th or 7th, or around 7th or 8th or something, and Llewellyn was in front of us in the Vauxhall. So it was like a wee bit of kudos in between the whole boys, like in tires, and we asked the question, got out on the dark stages, like could we have a go now over the next 4 stages, and we'll get 6th, and then we'll settle back in and finish the last day. So and I just wanted to have a go at see how we got on head to head with Gundaf. Obviously everybody else, so we're let off the ice then for 4 stages. So and that was good, like with a couple of great times on it, and settled back. That left us in with the championship in Group N1. It might have been, I can't remember, 2nd or someone in the overall. So that left us going to Cork. And the big difference that year was, like, I had time in the car, and that makes a huge difference. Like, I didn't have to worry about money. I knew I was doing the rallies. I could plan the rallies, go and do the reggae. Everything was sorted out with a great team behind us. All I did just go and drive the car, and it was the right good car, So end up going to Cork anyway, and that was a big one for us, like to win an international event. I'd only been done once before that.
Somewhere in Italy, wasn't it, or something like that?
No, I think it was one of the Ericssons in Ivory Coast.
Oh, right, yeah, okay.
Because the manufacturer's title or something, the driver's championship didn't turn up, but he wanted a Works Master, but it was a Group M car.
Right, okay.
And that's your man, look, won. There's only 3 as far as we know. Like, he won
yes.
European Championship somewhere in an Evo 10. Before he moved on to be a proper name, the
R5 Rally 2.
He's a fairly serious guy, Russian guy.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say he's a header, but he's got fairly serious speed. And I think that's the 3, So that was a great event for us, and that was worked out great. It was wet.
Yeah.
And big chat, and Frank, God rest him, was there in the Group A car, Liam Cullen, and
Stephen Murphy, and
a few other guys like that.
Sean Price and Nick Patterhurst, and there was a quality field there.
Quality field, Cork Rally been stages.
I remember guys some of them ones that they heard a little one about Killamatra and Mulcanish and all. They were just driver's stream, proper driving stages. So we did that. And I led from the start, which was the big thing, you know.
Yes. You didn't get a handy one. You didn't pick up somebody else's
We
problems.
went off after 4 or 5 stages. I can't remember, you know, but we led it from the start, which was the important thing, and then we just had to, you know, watch it. And then I remember was the Sunday was like monsoon conditions, like I said, good. You were a wee bit on the edge because there was no floods of water. Just been easy to throw the whole thing away, and you were very nervous. And as it turned out, I think we got a puncture in the last stage. But anyway, you know, it was in the back, and we dropped a minute or whatever, like, but we're, you know, all good and everybody happy. So
yeah, and like, you know, like that going into Sunday, like you were like over 2 minutes ahead, maybe even over 3 minutes going into Sunday. Was that almost more difficult than driving, like, you know, battling for seconds?
Well, so you first the road, and the conditions were fairly
serious, because I've seen a couple of years ago, someone had a bit of in-car. I don't know where it came out of. It was like nearly overshot somewhere or something like that, and you could see the conditions. But with a group in-car, like, you're always with, you know, the wet helped a bit, but we're still on the same gearbox, and you're always waiting for it to, you know, go. We'd done 5 gearboxes during the year, like 2 in Donegal, 2 in Clarny, and 2 in the Ulster, and they changed one. The Manx, it was okay to just change it anyway, like, you know, but you just be nervous naturally. Anybody's leading a rally on the last day, it doesn't. You're nervous and you hear everything. That's just, and it doesn't matter who you are. It's just, oh, she's about the only man maybe, but I'll say he listens fairly intently too in the last. No, everything went well.
Yeah, and like I was watching the RPM coverage, you know, before we spoke, and you know, whenever you get the puncture, you can see your head almost drops, and Ellen says, "Don't worry, you know, you can afford to drop a minute. Don't worry, you know." And like, that was the great thing with Ellen. She was so switched on. She just knew what to tell you at that time. You just needed that reassurance.
I got the information you need, like, in fact, over the next amount to go, and just
like, don't be panicking, settle things.
Just get it.
And you know, we had that great bond as host drivers and co-drivers that have been together for years, like, do, and you need that trust both ways, and it's it's a big thing, and you know, and I suppose you think on the 30 years now, like, and we're talking about Frank there, and the stuff. Frank's gone, Ellen's gone, and the number of people that but rest of them are, you know, may they rest in peace, as they say. 30 years, like, and it's probably good just to be here to be able to talk about it, actually. So I think that's the number one thing as you go on there, you know.
Yeah.
We'll be talking their days ourselves now, and like the one of the subjects is what tablets you're on, not what tablets are you on, like, I'm on this one, and I have that one too, right? There's a competition to see who's on the most tablets. Yeah. So it's good to be talking.
That's for sure. That's for sure. And like the other lovely thing too, at the end of the RPM coverage, I think it was Gary Gillespie asked Ellen, you know, what all of you's won this year. You know, it was like the Group N title, you know, 2nd overall. You know, we've won the Cork 20 outright, and then you say, oh, and as well as that, we've got the B seeding, you know, as well. From, you know, we won Group N in the Manx. Like it was like as close to perfection that year as you could nearly wish for.
The only downside was the Ulster, you know, and thankfully
we didn't do anything wrong. So
no,
and I kept forgot about that. Actually, the B scene then was like
it was a huge
thing. A lovely thing to have, you know, as a driver, because you had to earn it, and there wasn't many ways to earn it, and there wasn't many Irish guys, I think, actually got it.
Yeah.
And to get that, like, it was kind of a wee bit different, because you had to be. It was World Championship rallies, the first, can't remember what it was, but you'd be one Group N in it. And it had to be a coefficient 20, which the Manx was. Because it was all the top European guys there. So it was the first 3 in the Manx, or one of the Group N. So that was important then to beat Gundaf that event.
And as you say, Gundaf was there. Gundaf was there to prove a point. Like, he was there fishing for the Ford Drive for 94, so like he was all there, all bells, all whistles, and yeah, he got a puncture. But you didn't get a puncture. You were cute enough, and you bided your time.
I we're in a different strategy altogether. Like,
you know, he set some unbelievable times, like, and he's a fantastic driver. Like, but our job was to finish. But then was just that thing to prove to yourself where you would be against someone of his caliber. To get those couple of stages to say, okay, can we have a crack at this? And that wasn't up, and then obviously going that lost enough time with the puncher that we were still we were so we just had to get enough pace to make sure we got the Group N. He would have won Group N, the British Championship anyway, so everybody was happy.
Yeah. And like you talked about that team, the Steve Black team. Like they give you a car and give you the team, give you the backup, and it just let you do what you enjoy doing best, driving the car, not having to worry about going out and trying to find budget or anything else. You were just able to step in and do your thing behind the wheel.
It made a lot of difference, and like to see all the guys now.
You know about it, like you see it there, the guys doing national championship and doing testing, and it's all about seat time. And I've done a couple of rallies a year basically. That's all we did. And, we were going to events, and definitely there were many a discussion before it went to scrutiny, like, will we go through with this, or will we pull the pin now? And that's real, like that's genuine. That's the way we're in a bit of a wing and a prayer at times, like. But no, that was great because you just concentrated on doing being a driver and sorting out your notes, doing a number of rallies that you'd actually evolve as a driver and improve. And that's the biggest proof I got. Like from where I came from on the circuit to the end of the year, like it was comfortable. And it just felt right, and it felt like natural, and the seat time, like it's just with any young drivers, and it's all about doing rallies really and getting time in the car if you can afford it.
Yes, that's the big one. Yeah, so like there's like these guys starting Cork now at the weekend. Like the young guys coming up through. That's what the one piece of advice you would give them: get into a car, do as many events as you can at this stage.
I think it's very important to do events, and particularly if you're coming up
and you're an up and coming even you're starting out, like it's like learning your trade. As you do anything, you go and you learn the basics, you learn all the car control, you learn how to carry speed in small cars, you learn all the things that make you a good driver. And rallying's a bit different than everything else. Like every other sport, you can practice and train. Rallying, you don't really, so it's so important to do events, to get out and be in the car, whatever it is, be it Honda Civic, Rally 5 car, Rally 2, whatever it is. It's about getting the time and getting good at your notes, learning how to do the events, getting your co-driver sorted out, getting the team sorted out, learning about your tyres, learning about all the things you need to do, and that comes from just doing events.
Big thanks there to James, as always, for all the young drivers out there. The man says, get out there and do as many events as possible, and, no better man to get advice from. I also got a chance to catch up with Kevin O'Driscoll. Kevin and myself kind of talked through the various different sort of who's doing what and all, coming up with the championship and all in mind. So without further ado, let's hear from Kevin. So Kevin, we're down to the penultimate round of the Tarmac Championship, Cork 20 this weekend. We keep saying this championship, it never fails to live up to expectations, and we're in for another cracking weekend again now in Cork.
Yeah, I think so. Just looking there, I mean, the top, well, numbers-wise, it mightn't be as strong as some of the other rallies this year, but the top end is looking impressive again. With Callum there at the top with 3 on the bounce, looking strong there now. He's 83 points. Josh, 69. He's only winning West Cork now, changing the car mid-year probably, and getting used to probably isn't helping hugely. But still, he's in with a shout. Marion is still plugging away there as well with the 1 win, and maybe like last year was maybe slipped off a little bit of the pace in the middle of the year, but he finished second and third in Cork before, so you couldn't write him off if he gets a good run. And obviously Rob Barrable has no form at all in Cork, and you think Citroen was the last time he was there back in 2010. So, but like Rob is quick, and Gordon with him, they've gone really well this year. I mean, obviously they're complete outsiders for the championship, but at the same time they could have a big say in where it goes, based in positions and everything else. Like he did tell me that in Donegal, it's not his luckiest event, and he said that I said fifth was a good position, but I think he would have been banking on maybe a few more to retire, which it was a very, very low retirement rate in Donegal this year, which is a bit unusual. But look, fifth overall isn't to be sneezed. A good result there, and obviously Johnny's had a mixed enough year on the tarmac this year, and Northern champion now, so that's that one out of the way. he could go well. As I said, the pressure, like he can go for anything he wants to go for now, based that now that the Northern Ireland Championship is sorted. So you never know what might happen there. So there's there's a bit of quality there in the top end. You also, of course, you have Declan Boyle and you have Michael Boyle, who Gareth McHale. Actually, Gareth and Josh and Callum are the only previous winners of the event. So it's actually compared to some rallies, there's only 3 Declan Boylers there. He's never won the rally. Some top, so Ryan Loughlin could be an interesting one, like dark horse there as well. He had a really good run in Donegal in that car. So
he come really good Saturday afternoon into Sunday, didn't he?
Yeah, but Ryan is quick, I think.
Yeah,
I think Ryan will be quick anywhere he goes anyway. And of course you have David Kelly as well. David obviously unfortunately got slipping off the road, but will be quick as well. And then you have the Cork drivers like Owen Murphy, Cal McCarthy, David Guest. They'll be there thereabouts. I've left out Daniel Barry actually as well. Daniel's rallying in Donegal this year for a change. So there's a good top in there overall. To be fair. And then obviously you're hitting the modifies. Jason Black has pulled his entry from what I can see, but Eddie Doherty is leading the tarmac championship in the McAvoy Motorsport tarmac modified, and Gary Kiernan is probably next up, but like I said, Gary's a long way back now at this stage. So Eddie really, I think, a couple of solid finishes now here, and then the next one
probably see him has to lose at this stage, isn't it? Really, So yeah,
pretty much. And he's the confidence now too of having a couple of good results like Eddie McKillie and winning the Heartlands. So I think he'll be. I think I don't think he'll throw it away now. I think he'll take it nice and tough here. He doesn't need to get involved in a race or anything like that. No. James Stafford, of course, has probably come out for a pre-Wex for one to be first time out. I think he'll be out this year. Yes. Looking forward to seeing him in action because he's a very, very quick driver. And the nature of these roads, actually, they're pretty smooth for the most part. I think they'll suit the Darien for a lot of it. It's not flat out both way, but at the same time, they're very good surface roads and flowing stages, really nice stages, actually. So I think he'll go well there. And then, of course, Frank Kelly's there. Frank's a lot of rallying done this year and really quick.
Has showed great pace this year, especially since Donegal. It just you can see it in him. Like he said, he's starting to enjoy his rallying again, and that's coming through in his times as well. Like the fun's back and the times are back as well, which is great to see.
Yeah, it is actually. After his big accident there, where was that in the circuit? I think he's recovered well from that, but yeah, he's had some really, really strong results since then. So obviously that's shaken off any nerves after that. But he's going really well. And then of course you have some local drivers there, Colin Byrne, Mark Dolphin, Cian Walsh. They'll be quick as well on their own home patch as well. And obviously you have Ollie Benton coming over from the UK. Ollie's quick as well. So
all one of them guys no matter where he goes can be very quick in the class 13 car there as well. But I think we should mention. You mentioned earlier there Eddie Doherty. Like Eddie. Maybe not fair to say he came out of nowhere this year, but his pace this year has been exceptional. Like as you mentioned, McErlean, and then the one earlier, the one that he won the 2-wheel drive, the name's gone from me now. But like the Heartlands, he has gone everywhere this year, north, south, east, west, and proven his pace. It's great to see another new name in the modified field as well.
Of course, yeah, it is, and I mean to be fair, he's building up that pace during the year towards the back end of last year as well a little bit, but definitely this year, every rally he's gone up there, he's been consistently quick and always being in the top 4 or 5 times anyway. Like even, he's finishing rallies where like the likes of say Jason or Gary haven't finished rallies, he's finished them anyway, no matter what, and his times wouldn't suggest he's hanging around either, so he's well capable of mixing and he was quite ill actually in the McKillie where he had a head cold or a flu or something, a really bad one. He should have had an excellent result there, so his chances were probably limited enough in catching Rob Duggan anyway, but it's probably less so when you're sick when you're not in full form. But still managed to get a fine result down there. So and I wouldn't be overly surprised, depending how James Stafford gets back in if he's out there with the Darien. I think Eddie will be winning top 3 or 4 again, well comfortably. I think if he keeps the same pace up, and even just go down to the RC4. There you have the likes of Matthew Boyle, Casey J. Coleman, Ryan Lloyd, Keane Caldwell, Shane Quinn. There's some good battles going on between them all this year as well, and it'll be an interesting one to see how that goes as well here because
them guys are them guys. It's fascinating the battles that them young guys is having. Like there can be stages and there could be 4 of them separated like by 2 seconds or something. And
there's no lack of commitment. Really pushing hard.
and like each and every one of them are just real. It's brilliant to watch. and it just gives you such great confidence for the future of Irish rallying when you see them guys going so well.
Yeah, it is, and the fact that there's such great racing going on there as well, and there's no one kind of overly standing out. Each one has their own kind of rounds, and I suppose like anything, is a lot of these guys just building up the pace for this year to move on to another year. This, I mean, Callum Devine did that for a couple of years, and look where he is now. So it is a good starting point. It's a good testing ground for young drivers. Then of course we'll be just moving on into the historics, which instantly running first on the road, so which is a very interesting concept. I think the last time I remember that happening was the Rally of the Lakes, actually, maybe 7, 8, 9 years ago. I used to do it as part of the European Rally Championship. Historic for historics. But I think it's the first time Cork have tried it now. But it's it's an interesting concept. I think the pace of the historics has gone, to the level that they're enjoyable to watch, and it's great to give them their moment in the sun. I think they're brilliant to watch. I kind of really bought into the whole idea of they're guys weren't waiting around for the end of the field, and I know in West Cork they get seeded into the field on the second day. Here they're getting the front of the field, so you'll get to see them from the start. And I think it's nice to see how. I think it's a worthwhile venture. It'll be great to see how it goes. Certainly there'll be a bit of excitement there at the start anyway. So that's in the Synergy Historic. I suppose Duncan Williams, I'm not sure if he's won the title, but he's pretty cllose.
I think he needs a point or a couple of points. I think
he's pretty much
but
any kind of finish, I'd say now we'll see him through. He's 51 points ahead, so I mean I don't see him being caught. Neil Williams, I think Neil is former champion, has won the Cork 20 historic before, so again, he hasn't much rallying done this year in the Tarmac series, but I fancy him. Michael McKay is going to be very quick again. Trevor Wilson has been really quick, and he's switching on to the escort now since Donegal. So I think there are guys that'll be pretty. Thomas Davies is back from Wales. Thomas isn't slow. Alan Tracy is down with historic escort, local driver, very, very quick. So interesting to see how he gets on an escort after years and years in a twin cam. So it'll be interesting, and going all the way down to the likes of Mark Valvey, Philip Rogers, Paddy Walsh, all quick drivers, so I think they'll all. I think it'll be an interesting battle there, and see how it goes. And
I do think being first on the road, I think will be fascinating. It'd be great to have so many extra eyes on them now as well too. We know ourselves that a lot of people go and they get the top 10, 15 cars and they disappear again. But to be there to see the historics through as well, we've watched them through. And they are brilliant to watch. It's maybe the tyres maybe just don't have as much grip as the modern cars, and they do tend to be a bit more sideways. But it doesn't take that away from the speed and the commitment of the guys either.
No. I mean, I'd say if you do a comparison on times, you probably see most of these guys are putting in times in the top 25. I'd say the top guys are definitely doing that. I'm always minded of. Bjorn Waldegaard years ago in Killarney, if you remember rightly, back around 94 time when he came into Porsche and he was hitting times in top 15, the car that was really historic for that time as well. But I think it's a good idea. I think I'd like to see how it goes, and hopefully it will work well. And as I said, it's, to me, I do remember, I think, going back to last year's West Cork Rally actually as well, and even last year's Cork 20 as well, just hanging around just to see them on their first stage, the historics is something else. To see them out as the first cars on the road, even better again, I think, and I'm looking forward to that side of it.
Yeah, and we did kind of briefly touch on the top guys, like the championship, with the points and a half going into the Ulster, and which is only 3 weeks away really at this point. Callum, how do you play Cork? Do you go for broke and go for the one, or do you go for the finish? Callum's not the kind of guy that just tootles about either. He likes to push on, so it's hard to imagine them just tootling about and picking up points. I can see Callum maybe want to try and go for it this weekend.
Yeah, it's an awkward one, and you don't really want to give your opponents the initiative either. If, say, for example, he sat back and played him third or fourth, all of a sudden, you could have Marion, you could have Robert, you could have Josh pulling in, and dropping scores in the middle of it all, could just throw the whole thing, out. But I think anything in the top two will probably be a good, strong result for Callum anyway. Going to, I'd imagine territory that he'd be familiar with in 3 weeks' time, more Josh, I suppose. But I think it's just, I think steady as she goes for Callum. He'll have to go hard. He doesn't need to go all out, but I think he'll have to stay, kind of stay within reach, because like with the speed of those guys, those top 5 guys, it would be very easy to suddenly find yourself slipping back to 4th or 5th, which is definitely not a result you want, because that's nearly a drop score for you, and you don't really want to put that pressure on yourself going into the last round. But I think anything in the top, if Callum gets top two, one of the top two places, I think it'd be very hard to stop at that stage.
Yeah.
But if you remember last year, Josh had to mind the car going around the Ulster on the last stage as well. And, as I said, that's not an easy thing to do either.
No, I think Josh was
just a bit tighter this year.
Probably one of the hardest rallies ever drove was, driving with the finished fourth. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned there, drop scores, like, Josh has a drop score, Marion has a drop score already. Like, so, Callum's Galway's probably has worse score. Like, and a fifth place
finish. Third, I think it was a third or fourth or something like that. Yeah, third or fourth from in Galway. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I mean,
that just shows you the quality of Irish tarmac. When you're discounting the fifth place finish as your worst score, like so.
Yeah, exactly. So it just shows as well. Of course, take those points off him at the moment, and of course he's back in the mix with the other guys. So at that stage, he's made advantages that he's won 3 rounds, but an honour a bad finish here could suddenly just throw the whole thing on his head. So
and the Cork 20 is one of those events that always sort of tends to throw like a curveball into the mix. It has got so much history over the years.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the oldest rallies in Ireland. It's going back pre-war, basically, but the 20 came from the 20-hour trial that he used to run back in the day. So that's where it all started. Then it kind of transferred over to stage rallying kind of in the late 60s, early 70s, part of the National Rally Championship in those days, and probably one of the first rallies that Billy Coleman would have won, rallies of prestige, we'll say. She was a founding member of the Tarmac Championship in 1978, so kind of, but it became an international in 1977. But even in the years before that, when it was national, it was attracting good quality drivers, for the time of the year as well, So it's run kind of from August, September, October, November time in the last 50 years. So it's been this is obviously the second time they've rallied in August, but typically it would be in the end of September, start of October. But it would have, it's a very storied rally. I mean, you don't always get the best of entries because of the end of the year. It's been the last round of the tarmac a good few times. It's back to being penultimate round now at the moment. So, but it's an interesting rally, and there's several things about it. I mean, look at the drivers that have come over the years. Like, for example, you've Saeed Al Hajri and Ari Batten, Sebastian Loeb have all won the rally. Mark Lovell, Mark Higgins, these guys are there. Os McKay's first international win back in 1983, and look at that career he had after that. So, you probably remember the famous one with Austin getting the flyer against Billy in 1985. You have the Fisher and Simon Davis and Billy Coleman crashing into the same corner in 87. Like, there's loads and loads of stories there. Kenny McKinstry's last gas win, we'll say, over Stephen Finlay in 94. It's turned the whole it's turned the championship basically on its head a few times, and you also had James Cullen winning it in the Group In car in 93. So
we speak to James as well in this episode as well too. So.
Yeah. And I suppose another one, it was always one of the hardest rallies for Bertie Fisher to win back in the day as well. I mean, there's lots of times that championship behind him on it. You also had Roy White winning his own international day. Marty McCormick winning it as well.
Yeah.
So there's a few. There's another book in the amount of things that have happened there over that time. And it's an interesting. It's it is the oldest club in Cork as well, the Munster Car Club. So they probably use lots of corners of the county in terms of running rallies. So that, different areas have gone to different places, like Mill Street, Fermoy now this year down in just off the M8. So there's good roads there. There's good and a good team there as well. Like, you Kevin O'Reilly and Paul Brown. Kevin running the rally. Paul is deputy. Paul has won the rally a few times. Paul is also sponsoring the junior championship, which I must make mention of as well, obviously. So, and as I said, it's an interesting rally. I remember another one actually with Billy Coleman bringing the G3 to Cork 20, one of my first rallies back in 81 to City Meet car.
Came out of retirement, didn't they, almost at that stage?
Yeah, and it came out in that car. That was a big deal at the time, and crap weather, but a lot of people came out just to see that.
Yeah.
But going back to the rally itself, just this weekend, just 15 stages over 2 days. So you have an early start enough, 9 o'clock. It's 2 stages twice in the morning and 2 stages twice in the afternoon. 2 of those stages in the morning actually are used last year, not in the same form, but pretty similar. And the other 2 have been run in the past down that side, Inch down near Killa, and think it's, what's the other one called? Coral, something or other. I can't stop the name of it again. Coraglass. So then on Sunday, they're going up around where they were last year. Chimneyfield, very, very famous old Circuit of Ireland stage, come back to the 60s. And Badgers Hill, and another one called Monantara. Now, on Sunday, what they're doing is they're running the Monantara stage 3 times, and they're running the other 2 twice. So a total of 15 stages, 230 kilometers. So it's a really, really tough, long test. And it's a good challenge. I mean, it's going to be. I've seen some of the roads in the past, and they are good roads. They do flow. They're not car braking stages. They're a good challenge. They're a good test, and I think it should be a good event. I'll be on the back of that. Paul Brown's the junior championship, actually. Paul Brown Santire, the junior championship actually has 3 Cork drivers in the running for the junior title. Yeah, so Robbie O'Hanlon is on 50, Darragh Dunham on 44, and then Barry McIntyre is on 35, and then Ben McIntyre from Cavan, Stu McIntyre is in the top 4. He's in 3rd place. All 3 are entered, and it's been nip and tuck with a lot of those guys this year. Yeah. Darragh has been pretty quick in most of them, but hasn't finished all the rallies. Robbie's been consistent, and Sunday stages will be quite, fairly close to where he'll be from. And obviously Ben is doing a bit of a travelling to that rally, but it's actually any one of those 4, as far as I can see, can win the championship. So that's. I don't recall any junior championship that's had 4 drivers in the running for it, which it's still a couple of rounds to go. So that's a good one as well. And I think all the other thing is that the rally is based out of the Martin Rock at Cormac as well. That's for service and all that is. So our stage is 9 o'clock Saturday morning, and the first car is due in on Sunday evening. If I can find my times here, Sunday stages. Find the right stage, yeah. So in around 4:30 on Sunday evening is when the first car should be in to finish ramp.
And it's a bank holiday weekend, so crews will have the Monday off to recover as well too. So that's always a bonus as well.
Yeah, they will. I suppose one thing I would observe about that is, and again, it's probably an old one, it's possibly one of the reasons why the entry levels maybe aren't as high. It's just a busy weekend. It is something I noticed this year and last year that, for the quality of the stages and for the organising team, is probably not. They probably didn't get the numbers that they would have liked to have got, and I'd say quite possibly it is down to that weekend. It is just a holiday weekend, and that's
a lot of people's away.
That probably has an impact on it. People do go away, and I think that's an issue. I mean, it is. Now, having said that, it's from personal experience, it's a lot nicer to watch the Cork 20 in August time down there than it would be in the depths of October at times, back in the day. But at the same time, look, it's still a good strong entry. It's penultimate round, so there's still a lot to play for across the different categories. And
the live streams back as well this weekend, we think, as well too. So
it is, I believe, yeah. So we'll be able to keep on track of things. It has been out since Circuit the last rally it was out on, I think.
Yes, would have been.
Yes, the first 3 rounds. So I think so. But,
and then also, I'm sure Kelly and Andy will be there as well to keep us up to date as well.
I assume they will. I haven't heard whether or which, but I'm guessing that they will. And so we'll have plenty of information handed out over the weekend anyway. That's the main thing. And I suppose the last thing I want to wish is make sure hopefully everyone has a safe weekend, and the best of luck to Kevin and the team.
Thanks very much there to Kevin. It's going to be a fascinating battle in Cork, and just be interesting to see how all those different classes will sort themselves out, and will we have a champion at the end of it, or will we have to go into the final round of the points and a half in the Ulster Rally? That's going to be very exciting. As I mentioned earlier, something different to finish the show off this week. Shane Barry and John Doherty. Shane and his partner Tracy Wacky had used the Ronald McDonald House a few years ago, and more or less lived in it for 16 months when their daughter was seriously ill, and they wanted to pay something back. Back to the Ronald McDonald House and also Kane's Kennels. So to come up with this mad idea for himself and John Doherty to ride 2 horses from Donegal to Dingle. What can we say? A mad idea, a massive adventure, but no point in me telling you all about it. Let the 2 guys explain. So I seen on social media that these 2 men here decided to ride 2 horses from Donegal to Dingle. I don't know whether it was a mad idea or an inspired idea, but maybe you could tell the story behind it.
Good morning. I suppose it is a bit of a mad idea, so to speak. Right. So John were actually out hunting one, was it last February? About that. Last February. And we said I'd like to do something different to raise money for these two charities, because I spent 16 months more or less in Ronald McDonald. We had to close up the house and move to Dublin when our daughter was born. So we said we'd like to give back in a different way. So I suggested, why don't we ride from Donegal to Dingle and on two horses?
Foolish enough at the time, I said yes, thinking this is never going to happen. This is a bad idea. And Shane's good with my idea, but then I was a man of my word. So when he came back, he was training with horses, and I thought, nah, this isn't going to happen. He's not going to go ahead with us. And he just come back with more ideas, more plans, and then we started really planning. I was like, oh shit,
this is happening.
This is happening. When I realised it was happening, he said a poster of two horses with their faces photoshopped into it, and I was like, there's no backing out now. But yeah, no, it's definitely it's a big undertaking, but it's well planned and well thought out for our safety, the horses' safety, and try and raise as much money and as possible for the Ronald McDonald and Keane's Kennels. As Shane says, they went through 16 months, and without them, they probably wouldn't have managed to get through it as well as they did. And they were looked after when Arias Rose was getting looked after. They were just how far away were you?
No, just
across the road.
Across the road, yeah.
For them to have their dogs with them when they needed
an added bonus, because we were relying on friends and neighbours to look after the dogs, and then it was just becoming too much. So Keane's Kennels, what they do is if your child is in Crumlin, they'll come to your house, lift the dog, they'll take it up to Dublin. They have a facility at the hospital then that the kids can come out and they get to visit the dog, and then they'll take it home again. But in our case, we were the first, I suppose, maybe a trial run for them to keep long term. So our dogs were kept up in the DSPCA, and we could go out and we could go anytime we wanted to go and walk them. So any chance we got, whenever we'd get someone to sit with Arias, we'd go and just get out of the hospital for a walk.
Yeah, because the dog is a part of your family, and there's just, you love the dog loves you back, and it's a good way of kind of maybe sometimes just getting that half hour, an hour away too as well to get you out of that hospital setting, and a wee bit of normality having the dog to take for a walk.
Yeah, it's just anything to get you out of the hospital was a bonus.
Clear the head for an hour or so, whatever. But as you say, a bit of them time or me time, whatever they needed.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And as you mentioned there, two fantastic charities, and Ronald McDonald House it has provided care for families for years now, and it's vital that people can support this in any way, shape or form. How do people go about donating?
We have an I Donate page. It's I Donate Arias Donegal to Dingle Trek, and we have buckets. We're out on the road. We have buckets. The girls, the sport team, have buckets. My partner and our friend Curry and little Jenna Rose is along with us as well. And we have a huge team. I suppose we want to thank them as well.
Everyone, yeah. Without the people around us, we couldn't do it. It's just like everyone sees two cowboys on top of horses, and that's all they see. But if they see what's going on behind, we couldn't do it. If we were on our own, we wouldn't be able to do it. So we got it as far as Claire Morris yesterday.
Yeah,
and we really. The reception we're getting there, and I suppose you're the horseman.
I didn't have all the horses. I had to put a team together. So without the help of other people like Noah McGowan and Kenneth Rush up in Cullen, he gave me a couple of horses and Hugh Moore, and so we put a team of horses together between the whole lot of us. So without them, we wouldn't be able to do it.
Yeah, I think that that just shows the generosity of spirit, of people across the country that are willing to come together for a good cause. This is a rally podcast normally, but this is what again what we always said about rallying. the spirit of the people always pulls together whenever it's needed.
We've got a huge response from the whole. We were getting messages all over the country, people offering us places to keep the horses, keep ourselves, you know, anything we need. They've been texting in, and
I find with the rally community, I'm only getting to know the horse community because I'm only a novice at this stage. Like I'm getting better day by day, but the horse community seems to be as generous as the rally community. They're all people there to lend a hand, and it's not just the money. It's great to get donations in, but it's not just the money. It's helping you out, as Shane said.
Yesterday we had a guy yesterday came from Galway up to put 2 shoes on one of the horses for us. So we just had to make a phone call or two, and
it's kind of a different roadside assistance that I've used to, you know. But I'm blown away by the amount of people wanting to help. Like all the horse community, like the whole way down the country, they've been in contact. And actually, Kevin, the guy that contacted, he has been
amazing.
He's been amazing behind the scenes there. Like, and he's been kind of people contacting him because he's putting up a few posts and he's relaying messages because we're on the road. Like we can't be on the phone when we're on the horse, and then our support team, they're driving, they're kind of making sure we're right and keeping our safety. Like so, when somebody behind the scenes like that, it makes a massive difference for the publicity side of things, you know. And that's what it's all about, getting it publicised and getting people kind of awareness of what we're doing and why we're doing it.
Yes.
And that will in return up to the nations, and you know, get as much in for these 2 charities. I say they deserve to get as much as possible. You know, so but the main thing you want to put is like everyone sees the 2 cowboys and the horses, but you have to think of the team behind it as well. Like all the people like supplying horses and donating food, feed and stuff, and like without all that, like it's not possible. We couldn't do it, you know.
Yeah. And like you talked about, you know, people along the road. Where are people likely to see you over the next few days?
We're leaving. We're having a rest day today, just for our own. Tomorrow morning we're leaving Claremorris, probably around the 10 o'clock mark. We don't be tied to a time, but hopefully around between 10 and 11 we'll be leaving Claremorris and heading towards Tuam. And we'll see when we get to Tuam. We'll see what time we get to Tuam at, and if we're going to go, we might go a wee bit further. Then we're going down into Clear Galway, Clarenbridge, Kilcolgan, down Ballyvaughan, Listonvarna, down by the Cliffs of Moher, Doonbeg, Milltown Malbay. I think we're going down that way, and across on the ferry at Tarbert, and into Curry then, and head on for Dingle, Tralee, the Stole, Tralee, Dingle, hopefully.
Well, no bother. And like this is like it's really capturing the public's imagination. Like you know, as you say, the 2 cowboys on a horse, on the horses. But like you know, this is something that's probably never been done before, and maybe never will be again. But it is.
Not be no rush again.
People asking, are we going to do it again next year?
There's people actually asking, are we riding back up again? Down enough. I'll take the bus back.
Yeah, but isn't it fantastic the way that this has captured the public's imagination? Like people are just, I suppose it's something about animals and all that too. People just love to see that side of things, don't they? And then it's
brilliant. See the kids come up with a smile on their face, like you know, that's the animals. They just look. Like horses are unbelievable. Like and when you can see them, you're driving along, and see kids looking out the window, waving. You know, I'll tell you, it's well worth it. The sore butts are worth it.
We actually had them in Declan Boyle in Michael Boyle's pub there in Sligo. We had them in the pub up in the back of it. On the Sunday evening we got into Sligo, so Michael put up a few pints for us there, and
brilliant.
We had them up in Gracie's up the back, and the lads are all out taking pictures, and
it's great crack.
Yes. Well, men, let the 2 cowboys get to Dingle. I'm just delighted to, you know, and we'll put a wee link of that, you know, the GoFundMe page. We'll put a link that in the description as well of the video. So
that's good.
And when do you hope to get to Dingle? When will people expect to see you at Dingle?
Hopefully Friday the 11th. hopefully sometime after lunch, Friday the 11th.
Yeah. There's pages up there on social media that people can go and look at as well, with all the details on as well.
We have a Facebook page. It's Arias Adventures, or you can find us on either myself, Shane Barry, or John Doherty, Tracy Willoughby. There's plenty of stuff up on Facebook. Ron McDonald House have it up, and Keane's Kennels as well.
Yeah.
You can find us on any of them as well.
Yeah, well, please, if you can, in any way, shape or form, donate. It's going to a fantastic charity. The two charities have provided us with great care over the 16 months, and no doubt, we never know when we might need them ourselves.
No, that's the thing. People don't know when they eliminate a guy. I think I've never needed it, these charities, but you know what? I see the work they've done for people, and like, it's just unbelievable. So the only thing I could likely say is if everybody could keep the support we're getting is phenomenal, but if we keep that going, the momentum going as we're going down to the country, it would be just brilliant. Just keep people getting behind us and supporting the cause. It'd be brilliant.
And if anybody wants to come out and join in, you're more than welcome.
Trying to do a couple of miles with us, it's more.
Yeah, we had a few join in Donegal, and a couple in Sligo, and I think there's a few more joining when we get down around Galway somewhere. And but if anybody wants to join in, even on a bicycle, they're welcome.
Come join the Cowboys. Well, men, I wish you the very best, and no doubt we'll be hearing from you again soon. So thanks to the two Cowboys there, John and Shane. What a fantastic adventure they're having, and what a story they're going to have by the time it's all finished. So if you can, in any way, shape or form, donate. Even if you can't donate money, if you can, help them out in any way, shape or form, like if you can feed the horses, whatever, all those things will make a huge difference for the guys and their team there as well too. So, and it's an I donate Arias Adventures. I'm sure if you Google that, you'll come up with it, no bother at all. So, Connor, before we go, I suppose we should mention Rally Madeira this weekend. Chris Meek and Brian Hoy is out with Chris this weekend, the latest round of their Portuguese Rally Championship in the Highland. Be interesting to see how they get on, so fingers crossed for the two guys there.
Absolutely, yeah, and switching on to tarmac for this round of the Portuguese Championship, so fingers crossed now, and if we can get another strong result or a win there just to help Chris along in that bid for the championship.
For sure. Before we go as well, can you please like, share, rate, subscribe, all those things we keep saying they make such a difference. But also, if there's anything that, you feel would make a great story, or anything that we can help promote the sport in a better way, drop us an email at crunchinggears@yahoo.com. It would be fantastic to hear from you. We love getting the feedback, on the shows. So if anything that pops into your head, just please drop us an email at any time. We're also on Facebook and Twitter. If you search Krunching Gears and either of those, you'll come up with our pages. Drop us a message. Feel free. We'd love to hear from you. So that's it. Until the next time. Take care, speak soon, and bye.